Have you ever just sat down to meditate? Within a few days, found yourself secretly wondering when the light will appear, when visions will come, or when some powerful R- body experience will confirm that you are finally getting somewhere? Have you ever started a practice with the pure intention to relax and heal, but somehow ended up treating meditation like an exam you must pass quickly, feeling more and more pressured, disappointed, and tired as the days go by? Welcome back to the channel. I am really happy you are here, because today we are going to talk about something very subtle that quietly ruins a lot of people's practice: the hunger for instant awakening. The original article we are expanding from shares a teaching from a meditation master who reminds us again and again not to be high-minded and impatient on the path. The moment we sit down and start thinking about enlightenment, seeing light, proving attainment, we are already turning meditation into another achievement project. In this long conversation, we are going to unpack why that happens, how it turns a path of peace into a source of stress, and what it really means to relax in meditation without losing sincerity. We will talk about how childhood conditioning and modern culture set us up to chase dramatic results, how spiritual social media makes us think everyone else is having mystical fireworks, and how comparing, grasping, and judging ourselves actually blocks the very clarity we are seeking. Most importantly, we will walk through real-life stories: the beginner who burns out after 3 weeks because nothing special happens, the devoted practitioner who pushes so hard for progress that their anxiety and insomnia get worse, the person whose single wow experience becomes a trap, and the quiet student whose practice looks boring from the outside but slowly rewires their entire destiny. If you have ever thought, why am I not enlightened yet? Or if my meditation does not look like those stories I hear, maybe I am doing it wrong, then this is for you. Imagine this scene. You hear about meditation. Maybe a friend tells you, "It changed my life." Maybe you see videos where people talk about inner peace and cosmic love. Maybe you read a book about awakening, where someone describes seeing brilliant light, feeling their body dissolve, or realizing deep spiritual truths in one powerful moment. Something in your heart is touched. Your own life is full of stress, confusion, and emotional storms. So you think, "I want that." You buy a cushion. You download an app. You watch a few teachings from a smiling meditation master who talks about awareness and compassion. And you decide, tonight is the night. I am going to start practicing seriously. The first evening, you sit down, you straighten your back, close your eyes, and start to follow your breath, just as you were instructed. For a few minutes, you feel a little calm. Then, of course, the mind starts doing what minds do. Thoughts come and go. Memories, plans, random images. You remember an embarrassing conversation from last week. You think about tomorrow's meeting. Your knee hurts. Your back complains. Time seems very long, but you are still enthusiastic, so you endure it. When the timer rings, you'll feel proud. I did it. I meditated for 20 minutes. The second evening, use it again. This time, you hope that something more interesting will happen. Maybe a bit of light behind the eyes, the sense of floating, some clear insight that proves your consciousness is shifting. You have heard of people seeing light in meditation. Why not you? But again, what you mostly meet is ordinary life thoughts, sensations, restlessness, boredom, a few calm moments, then more noise. By the third or fourth evening, a subtle change begins inside. The quiet curiosity that brought you to the cushion starts to mix with expectation. You find yourself thinking, "I have meditated for several days now. Shouldn't I be feeling something more?" You might not say that out loud, but the thought starts to hum underneath your practice. Without noticing, you are no longer simply sitting with your experience. You are secretly scanning it for signs of progress. Every session becomes a test. Did I feel more calm than yesterday? Did anything special happen? Did I have fewer thoughts? Did my breath feel different? If the answer seems to be no, disappointment grows. One night, you have a slightly unusual sensation, a wave of warmth through your body, or a brief sense of spaciousness, or a strange image arising in your mind. For a moment, you are excited. Maybe this is it. Maybe I had a glimpse of something higher. The next night, you sit down and immediately start looking for that same sensation. You try to recreate it. You adjust your posture, your breath, your focus, trying to recapture the experience. When it does not come, you feel like you failed. Fast forward a few weeks. What started as a simple desire to explore your mind has turned into a chase. You are chasing states, vision, special feelings. You read more and more stories of advanced meditators and compare yourself to them. You ask teachers questions like, when will I see light? How long until I break through? How many hours a day should I sit to progress faster? You might even begin to doubt your capacity. Maybe I am not meant for this. Maybe other people have spiritual talent and I do not. And slowly, what was supposed to bring peace becomes another source of pressure. You feel tired. You feel guilty when you miss practice. You feel tense when you do practice. You might even stop altogether, telling yourself, meditation makes me more anxious, not less. If any part of this sounds familiar, you are not alone. A Tibetan meditation master once joked that the #1 obstacle for modern practitioners is super high expectations and super low patience. We want enlightenment like we want fast internet, instant, smooth, and always available. If the connection lags even for a moment, we complain. But consciousness is not a machine, and awakening is not a product you can order with express delivery. To see why we fall into this trap of high ambition and low patience, it helps to look at how we were trained long before we ever heard the word meditation. From childhood, many of us grow up in environments where value is measured by performance. School rewards grades, not curiosity. Parents praise results more than effort. Society celebrates winners, not learners. You get a good grade, you get applause. You get into a good school, you are praised as promising. You get a prestigious job. People say, you are successful. You fail an exam, you are scolded. You do not get into a top university, you feel shame. You choose a path that is not respected by others, you are judged. In such a system, you naturally develop a habit. You link your worth to visible achievements. You also learn to constantly compare yourself with others. Someone is always better, faster, smarter, richer. So you always feel like you are climbing a stairway that never ends. When you eventually become disillusioned with this race and turn to spirituality, you carry this mental habit with you. You think, I am tired of competing out there. I want inner peace. But deep inside, the old programming is still active. It quietly asks, how will I know I am doing well in meditation? What will show that I am progressing more than others? What is the spiritual equivalent of a good grade? And because the inner world is invisible, you start using strange markers. Seeing light becomes one. Feeling bliss becomes another. Having out minus of minus body experiences. Hearing sounds, having visions, or entering unusual states all become little trophies the ego wants to collect. You might not brag openly, but inside you build a story. I had this experience, so I must be special. I am closer to awakening than others. The problem is, the more you chase such experiences, the farther you move from the actual heart of practice. Meditation, at its core, is about learning to be present with what is real, moment by moment. It is about seeing clearly how your mind works, how thoughts arise and pass, how emotions come and go, how sensations shift and drift. It is about discovering a deeper, more stable awareness that does not get pushed around by every wave on the surface. When you sit down and immediately start demanding that the mind entertain you with lights and vision, you are treating practice like a movie theater that owes you a good show. You are no longer listening to your mind. You are trying to force it into a performance. That creates pressure. Pressure creates tension. Tension creates more restless thoughts and uncomfortable feelings. And then you judge yourself for having those feelings, adding more pressure. It is like going to a doctor because you are tired and stressed, and then yelling at your own body every 5 minutes for not relaxing fast enough. The yelling becomes part of the problem. Let us meet a man named Kevin, whose story mirrors this. Kevin was an engineer, obsessed with efficiency. At work, he optimized systems, streamlined processes, and constantly sought ways to do more in less time. When his doctor warned him about high blood pressure and suggested stress reduction, he discovered meditation. He listened to a talk by a calm, smiling meditation teacher who spoke about awareness bringing peace. Kevin thought, "Great, a tool to fix my stress. I will master it quickly." He approached meditation like a project. He set a goal within 3 months. He wanted to feel completely calm whenever he sat down. With very few thoughts, he bought books, watched videos, and created a spreadsheet to track how many minutes he meditated each day, rating sessions from 1 to 10 based on how calm he felt. At first, he enjoyed the novelty, but soon, familiar patterns took over. If he had a session where his mind was a bit quieter, he gave himself a high score on the spreadsheet and felt proud. If his mind was noisy, he gave himself a low score and felt like a failure. He began trying harder and harder to force his mind into stillness. When thoughts came, he would scold himself internally. "Stop thinking. Focus. You are wasting time." Unsurprisingly, the more he fought his mind, the more restless it became. After a while, he started experiencing more anxiety during meditation than he did outside of it. His chest tightened, his jaw clenched, and his thoughts spun faster. After 2 months, he went to see a teacher and said, "Meditation is not working for me. I am trying so hard to be calm, but my stress is worse. Maybe I am not suited for this." The teacher smiled and asked, "How would you feel if your boss stood over you at work all day, yelling, 'Be efficient. Do not make mistakes. Hurry up'? Would that help your performance?" Kevin laughed despite himself. "Of course not. I would be miserable." "That is exactly how you are treating your mind," the teacher said. "You came to meditation to find a kinder way of being with yourself, but you are using the same harsh voice from your workplace. You are trying to bully yourself into calm. That is not meditation. That is internal aggression." The teacher encouraged him to drop the spreadsheet and the scores. "For the next month," he said, "your only job in meditation is to sit with kindness. When thoughts come, do not fight them. Acknowledge them and come back gently. When you feel restless, instead of judging it, notice it with curiosity. Your success is not in how quiet your mind is, but in how gently you return." Again and again. At first, Kevin felt uncomfortable without his metrics. He worried he was wasting time. But with practice, he began to experience something new. He would sit down, and when restlessness appeared, he did not immediately try to crush it. He sighed internally and said, "Oh, here is my busy mind again." Instead of forcing his breath to be slow, he allowed it to be as it was, watching it with a kind attention. He still had days when his mind felt like a storm, and days when it felt more like a calm lake, but he stopped giving them marks. Over time, his nervous system actually began to relax, because it was no longer being attacked by his own inner critic. Ironically, it was when he stopped trying so hard to achieve calm that genuine calm began to arise by itself. This is one of the great paradoxes of practice. The harder the ego tries to grab awakening, the more exhausted and confused it becomes. When the grip softens, the natural clarity underneath starts to show. Another common pattern is the obsession with special experiences. Maybe, during a retreat or a particularly emotional period of life, you have a strong experience in meditation. You feel your body dissolve into space, or you see inner light. or your mind becomes very still and expansive. It may be a genuine glimpse of a deeper reality. It may simply be a particular state created by certain conditions. Either way, it feels amazing. You think, this is it. This is what everyone talks about. The problem is not the experience itself. The problem is what you do after it passes. If you cling to that one moment as proof of your spiritual level, you may spend years trying to recreate it. You might start thinking, my ordinary sessions are worthless. Only that state was real meditation. You become bored with simple sitting, restless when nothing dramatic happens, and secretly convinced that your life is divided into two parts: the peak moment and everything else. A meditation master once compared such states to nice weather on a long-distance journey. You are on a walk that will last for weeks. One day, the sky is clear. The sun is gentle. The breeze is perfect. You feel wonderful. The next day, it is cloudy and windy. If you spend the cloudy day obsessing over how good yesterday felt, complaining that today is not like yesterday, you miss the point. The point is not to live forever in yesterday's weather, but to keep walking, step by step, through all conditions. Real progress in meditation is less like fireworks and more like slowly brightening dawn. You do not always notice the change minute by minute, but if you look back over months or years, you may see that you are less reactive, more patient, more able to stay present with discomfort, more open-minded. Those changes are subtle. They are easy to overlook, especially in a culture that loves dramatic stories. But they are exactly what transform your life and destiny. Think about cause and effect. If you sit down most days with a sincere intention, even for 10 or 20 minutes, you are planting seeds. Each time you choose to show up, even when you are tired or bored, you are strengthening a karmic tendency toward awareness. Each time you notice a thought and gently return to your anchor, you are training your mind to be less enslaved by random mental movies. Over weeks and months, these small acts accumulate. They change the way you respond to your partner when they irritate you. They change the way you handle fear when unexpected events happen. They change the way you treat yourself when you make mistakes. But if you are always looking for big results and ignoring these little shifts, you may miss the miracle that is quietly unfolding. You might abandon practice just when it is starting to penetrate your habits. Let us meet another practitioner. This time someone who did not have any big mystical moments, but whose life changed in a very real way. Her name is Emily. Emily came to meditation not because she wanted enlightenment, but because she was overwhelmed by anxiety. She had panic attacks in crowded places, worried constantly about her health, and often woke up at night with her heart racing. She took a beginner's course where the teacher kept repeating one simple message: you do not have to fix your mind. You just have to learn to stay with it. For the first 6 months, Emily's meditation was very ordinary. She sat. She felt her breath. Her mind wandered. She noticed that. She came back. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she felt numb. Sometimes she felt a bit of peace. She heard stories about other people's experiences, visions, bliss, clear insights. She wondered if she was doing something wrong, but she trusted the teacher's encouragement and kept going. A year later, she realized something surprising. She still had anxious thoughts, but they did not control her in the same way. When a wave of fear came, she was more able to say, "This is anxiety. It feels intense, but it will pass," instead of believing every catastrophic story her mind created. When someone criticized her, she was still hurt, but she did not spiral for days. She could hold the pain, breathe with it, and recover more quickly. When life threw a sudden challenge at her, she did not collapse completely. She felt the shock, but she also felt a small, quiet space inside that was not thrown around. This quiet resilience was not a wow experience on the cushion. It was the result of countless simple sessions where nothing spectacular happened except the act of coming back, again and again. If you asked her, "How many times did you see light?" "Did you leave your body?" She would say, "Never." If you asked her, "Has meditation changed your destiny?" she would say, "Absolutely. I am not a prisoner of my fear anymore." This is the kind of transformation that spiritual teachers like to call most precious, but least advertised. It does not look good in flashy stories. It is not easy to show off, but it is the real fruit of a sincere, steady practice. So how can you protect your meditation from the trap of high ambition and low patience? One crucial step is to refresh your understanding of what you are actually doing when you sit. You are not sitting to decorate your mind with special effects. You are sitting to see clearly. To see clearly means to be honest about what is present without immediately judging, grabbing, or pushing away. When you notice that you are spending your whole session waiting for something to happen, that is already an objective awareness. You can turn toward that impatience and say, look at this. My mind is craving a show. It thinks ordinary breathing is not enough. Interesting. The moment you can observe your own craving, you are no longer fully caught in it. You have stepped into a slightly wider space. That space, not the fireworks, is the doorway to freedom. Another helpful step is to bring more compassion into your practice. Instead of sitting like a strict judge checking whether your mind is performing well, sit like a caring friend who is simply spending time with a restless companion. When your thoughts scatter, you do not scold. You acknowledge and guide them back gently. When you feel tired, you notice the tiredness with kindness. This shift may sound small, but it changes the whole atmosphere. Your nervous system begins to experience meditation as a safe place, not an exam room. A meditation master once said, "If your practice does not include kindness toward yourself, you are only halfway practicing." You can also remind yourself that every mind is different. Some people are naturally more visual. They may see light or images easily. Some people are more kinesthetic. They feel sensations strongly. Some are more mental. They experience more thoughts and insights. None of these is inherently higher or lower. They are just different expressions of consciousness. If you happen to be someone whose meditation is mostly thoughts and simple sensations, that does not mean you are less spiritual. It means you are meeting your mind as it is. That honesty is a form of bravery. If you really want a sign of progress, look at your life off the cushion. Are you slightly more patient with your family than before? Are you a little less hooked by gossip and drama? Are you a bit quicker to notice when you are about to say something harmful, and more able to stop yourself? Are you more aware of the subtle emotions moving through you during the day? These are the real signs. If you only change what happens in a dark room with your eyes closed, but your daily habits remain the same, something is missing. Meditation is not meant to be an escape from life. It is meant to be a training ground for life. The stillness you touch in practice is meant to follow you into the traffic jam, the awkward conversation, the difficult phone call, the late-night worry. When you see your practice improving your daily choices, you know that the seeds you are planting are sprouting. Now, let us zoom out and connect this to bigger themes like karma, destiny, and awakening. Every time you sit with your mind instead of acting out your habits, you are changing your karmic pattern. Instead of impulsively reacting, you are learning to respond. You are breaking the automatic chain that goes, unpleasant feeling appears, I run away, or pleasant feeling appears, I grasp until I am exhausted. When that chain weakens, whole branches of your future change. Think of all the arguments that did not happen because you chose to breathe instead of explode. Think of all the addictive spirals you did not feed because you were able to sit through a craving without obeying it. Think of all the relationships that healed because you noticed your own patterns instead of blaming others entirely. This is how meditation reshapes destiny. Not by giving you a dramatic vision of your future, but by changing the way you meet each present moment. In its deepest sense, is not a one-time peak experience that magically fixes everything. It is a gradual, profound shift in how you relate to reality. You begin to see that thoughts are thoughts, not facts. That emotions are passing waves, not permanent identity. That situations are impermanent, not ultimate prisons. From that understanding, compassion naturally grows. When you see how your own mind is pulled and pushed, you understand how others are trapped in their patterns. Instead of judging them as bad, you see them as lost in their storms. This does not mean you allow harm, but it means you respond with more wisdom and less hatred. In this way, a practice that begins with sitting on a cushion can blossom into a life guided by kindness, patience, and clarity. That is awakening in action. So, if you are someone who has been suffering under the weight of your own spiritual ambition, what can you do right now? You can start by taking a deep breath and forgiving yourself for misunderstanding. Of course you wanted results. Of course you wanted confirmation that your efforts matter. This is a very human impulse, shaped by years of living in a world that measures everything. There is nothing wrong with you for wanting progress. The invitation is simply to refine that desire. Instead of craving dramatic moments, you can cultivate a quieter wish. May I become a little more awake, a little more loving, a little more free today. No matter what my experience looks like, the next time you sit, you can try this mindset. Before you start, you might say silently, I am not here to perform. I am not here to force my mind into silence. I am here to be with myself as I truly am, with as much honesty and kindness as I can manage. Then, when the thoughts come, and they will, you practice exactly that honesty and kindness, little by little. This approach will change how you feel about practice. It will no longer be something you dread because it highlights your failures. It will become a refuge, a place where you can lay down the armor and just be human for a while. As we come toward the end of this long sharing, I want to speak very directly to that part of you that is always asking, am I there yet? What if there is not a single destination, but an unfolding? What if every sincere moment of sitting, every glimpse of your own pattern, every act of returning gently, is already part of awakening? What if your job is not to judge your own progress, but to keep showing up with as much sincerity as you can, and let cause and effect take care of the rest? When you plant a seed in the soil, you do not dig it up every day and shout at it. Why have you not sprouted more? Where are your flowers? You water it, give it sunlight, protect it from obvious harm, and trust the natural process. Your meditation is the same. The quiet hours you put in, the small insights you gain, the countless returns to the breath, are all invisible work being done in the dark soil of your mind. One day, you will look up and realize that you respond to life differently, that you are less frightened by your own thoughts, that you are more able to rest in the midst of change. You may not be able to point to one big moment when it happened, but you will know, in a humble way, that the practice has changed you. I would love to hear from you about this. Have you ever fallen into the trap of chasing special experiences in meditation? Have you ever pushed yourself so hard to progress that you ended up more tired and discouraged than before? Or have you had the opposite experience, where letting go of expectations suddenly made practice feel lighter and more natural? You are warmly invited to share your stories in the comments. You may discover that many people are struggling with the same patterns, and your honesty can support them. We grow together by talking openly about these subtle spiritual traps. If this long reflection resonated with you, if it helped you relax even a little around your practice, I invite you to support this channel. You can subscribe so you do not miss future explorations of meditation, karma, compassion, and awakening in everyday life. You can like this video so that it can reach others who are quietly judging themselves on the cushion. And if you feel called to walk more closely with this community, you can consider joining as a member to support the time, heart, and energy that go into creating these teachings. Most of all, whether or not you ever click another button, I hope you remember this simple message the next time you sit down to meditate. You do not have to chase light. You do not have to prove anything. You do not have to force yourself into some perfect state. Your only job is to meet your mind as it is, again and again, with awareness and kindness. If you can do that, even imperfectly, then you are already on the path that true masters point to. And step by step, breath by breath, that path will quietly lead you toward a freedom far deeper than any short-lived spiritual fireworks.
There are moments when you see something, and your heart simply whispers, "This one is meant for me." Bracelet carries more than beads. It carries intention, protection, and quiet strength. Something to guide your thoughts and keep your spirit steady. If you felt that gentle pull toward any of the bracelets shown, the purchase link is waiting in the description, and the full collection is displayed on our channel store. Follow your intuition. It rarely leads you wrong.